I've always believed trust isn't something you declare. It's something you build piece by piece through time and choices. Emily and I had been together for almost 4 years, and I thought we'd both shown where our loyalty stood. She was radiant and magnetic, the kind of person who drew people in without even trying. I was her opposite, quiet, grounded, comfortable and calm rather than chaos. A week before a company summer party, she mentioned it casually over dinner. "It's at Mason's Lake house this year," she said, twirling her fork through her pasta. "Everyone's bringing their partners, but you hate that crowd, so I'll just go with the team." I didn't respond right away. I'd met her co-workers before, especially Mason. He was one of those men who thrived on attention, all charm and ego, always a little too self-aware. The last time I saw him, he joked about Emily's dress being distractingly dangerous. She laughed it off, but I could tell it wasn't a genuine laugh. So I said quietly, "If Mason's hosting, just be careful. I've heard things about those parties. Too much drinking, people crossing lines." She sighed. "Ethan, you're overthinking again. It's just a party." "Maybe," I said, "but sometimes just a party is where things start to go wrong." She rolled her eyes, pulled out her phone, and the conversation ended there. That's when I first felt something subtle shift between us. A cold, quiet distance neither of us dared to name. The night came sooner than I expected. She looked effortlessly beautiful. Black top, jeans, simple but striking. I offered to drive her, but she smiled and shook her head. "Relax," she said, kissing my cheek. "I'll text you when I'm back." Midnight came and went. Then 1. By 2, I'd stopped pretending to sleep. I called once, twice, 3 times. Nothing. At 3 a.m., a single message appeared. "I'll explain tomorrow. Don't wake up." The words didn't sound guilty, but they felt it. By morning, I was still at the kitchen table, my coffee untouched, the air thick with questions. When her key turned in the lock, my pulse jumped. She stepped inside looking wrecked, hair tangled, makeup smudged, wearing a sweatshirt that clearly wasn't hers. I didn't ask anything. "Coffee's still warm if you want some," I said. She nodded but didn't move. "Ethan, please listen before you say anything." That's the kind of sentence that only exists when something's already broken. "I drank too much," she began. "Mason said we could stay instead of driving. I was exhausted, so I slept in the guest room, alone." Her silence to the talking her words avoided. The clock ticked between us. I wasn't angry yet, just hollow. Then she whispered. Nothing really happened. We kissed. It was stupid. I stopped it right away. I wanted to believe her. I really did. But people rarely confess to something small unless they're hiding something bigger. "You ignored me because you didn't want to admit I was right," I said. Her eyes filled with tears. "I didn't plan it, Ethan. It just happened." "No one plans betrayal," I replied. "It happens when you start believing you're safe from it." She sat across from me, her hands trembling around a cup of coffee that had gone cold. "I'll quit my job. I'll block him. I'll do anything." I studied her face, searching for the woman I thought I knew, the one I'd built a life with. But all I saw was someone else wearing her skin. The rest of that day blurred together. Her crying behind the bedroom door, me wandering the streets aimlessly until I found myself at the lake where her party had been. It was empty now, just a few bottles half buried in the sand. The silence there felt heavy, almost judgmental. By evening, she texted, "Please come home. Let's talk." When I finally did, she had a small bag packed. "If you need space, I'll stay at my sister's," she said softly. I only nodded. There was nothing left to discuss. Sometimes silence is the only language left when trust dies. Days turned into weeks. She sent message after message, long ones filled with apologies, explanations, attempts to rewrite what happened into something smaller, something forgivable. I never replied. What could I say? "I forgive you"? Forgiveness isn't a word, it's a rebuild, and ours had collapsed far too deep to restore. A month later, an envelope arrived in her handwriting. Inside was a photo of us at the coast 2 summers ago, laughing, wind in our faces, and a letter. If I could go back to that night at the lake, she wrote, I'd leave before it began. You warned me because you cared. I ignored you because I wanted to feel free. I didn't realize freedom without respect is just another name for loneliness. I read it 3 times, then folded it and tucked it away with our old postcards, not because I wanted her back, but because it was part of our story. Some lessons come too late to say what they were meant to protect. She wanted me to understand her regret. I did, but understanding isn't the same as returning. The next weekend, I drove back to the lake, not to see her, but to let go. The air smelled of pine and rain. I picked up a smooth stone and skipped it across the water, watching each ripple fade. That's when it hit me. Betrayal doesn't always end with rage. Sometimes it ends in stillness, in the quiet realization that warnings are gifts we give before life turns them into lessons. When I got home, the apartment felt lighter. Her things were gone, the walls bare, but the space finally felt open again. I made a cup of coffee, sat by the window, and spoke the truth out loud. You can't save someone who mistakes your care for control. The next morning, I mailed her letter back with one line added at the bottom. You were right. It was just a party. And like most parties, it ended when the lights came on.